Today, I'm going to be talking about the piece of fashion news that has swept the world by storm. Not in a good way, and I'm sure you've heard about this, and that's the Balenciaga CP scandal, shall I say. I'm hoping you'll get why I'm saying CP, because it's to do with children, just because I'm not sure what we're allowed to say here on YouTube. I mean, I cannot believe that this is a piece of news that I even have to cover or anyone has to report on, least of all in the luxury fashion community. I cannot believe you even have to state the obvious here, like protecting children out of a campaign that frankly should have never launched in the first place and gotten to this stage. But here we are. To be honest, I've always felt that Balenciaga was a little bit of a joke brand, a little bit of a spoof brand, if I'm being honest. I never really liked the brand, to be honest. I thought they were always eye-catching and attention-grabbing for all the wrong reasons. I think this was a step too far, and I'm glad others think so too. Balenciaga has created a campaign very recently which starred a lot of children in it. What has come to everyone's attention is not the items themselves, but the way and the set that was designed around children. I don't understand why in the advertisement of your hourglass bag or your teddy bear bags or whatever, children need to be involved. From what I understand in terms of context, there was a photographer that likes to photograph children and all of their toys. He was called on set to go and shoot this array of photos for this campaign. And it just so happened that as soon as these photos emerged and were on Balenciaga's website, advertising obviously the products, internet sleuths, you could say, went in and dived into the detail, zoomed into the pictures and realised there were children who looked honestly very frightened, in my opinion, holding what appears to be BDSM dolls. There were also very scary paintings that were in the background. In other photos, they even had lock and keys symbols for the children on the doll. There are also an array of images with the hourglass Balenciaga bag with a lot of papers on it. And if you zoomed in, you actually saw a lawsuit, I believe, and a case of Ashcroft versus Free Speech Coalition to essentially say that virtual CP is actually allowable. And it's part of, free speech. That was apparently granted by the Supreme Court. I don't know who was, honestly, in my opinion, bought and paid for, because that is a horrific crime against humanity, especially the innocence of children. Some people online have found books, I think, in certain shelves, even other sinister things. After the news came out, obviously, a bunch of things happened in quick succession. The campaign images were instantly taken down by Balenciaga. I believe it took them a few days, in fact, to even go ahead and apologize, and they stated that on their Instagram story. They did make a statement which is good around CP being abhorrent and protecting children should be our utmost priority, but honestly I found it to be quite a cop-out. They were essentially blaming all of the campaign imagery and the connotations of children on the agency that they employed to go ahead and shoot and stylize this whole campaign in the first place. There are so many checks and balances that happen. Even influencers that are super, super small, you have to go through layers of brand approvals to go ahead and promote a campaign or even just a tiny Instagram caption. I have personal experience with this myself. If you do a collaboration, you could not have gotten to this stage. You scrutinize absolutely everything, and if there was a kid, you should have automatically distanced yourself from it, and they're just going to get a little slap on the wrist and then move on. I don't think so. In today's world, I feel like it is not very black and white anymore. There are a lot of grey areas, especially when you consider things, not to go down a rabbit hole, but terms like minor attracted persons now, to cover up what essentially keywords are. Making a statement to protect children is at least the bare minimum they could do in this case. And I know some people on the extreme side of the left will say Balenciaga was just pushing the boundaries just because they are that brand, but that is no excuse to put children, the most innocent people in society, in danger. And I'm glad that any side of the political aisle can come together and unite on this topic. A lot of the public opinion had also put pressure on celebrities like the Kim K's, the Bella Hadids, the celebrities that are essentially the faces of Balenciaga. Kim K in particular has been emblazoning all kinds of Balenciaga goods on her, I guess, like Keeping Up with Kardashian show, all of her Instagram. It took about 6 days for Kim K to respond, if I'm not mistaken, which is far too long as a mother of what, like 4 children? And I will also throw up a screenshot of her apologies. They were in several Instagrams or tweets, I believe. And the fact that she's spoken really vague terminologies like, I wanted to collect my thoughts or speak to the team to understand how this could have happened. I mean, there is nothing there, in my opinion anyway, to understand. There are members of the Balenciaga team that are mentally effed up, and you don't actually have to stretch that far to the imagination for that, because actually one of the lead stylists, who is a female, if that matters, because I think a lot of people think it might be male predators out there. On her Instagram, I will again throw up shots, all the kinds of graphic things that I don't think is necessarily appropriate to talk through, but you can go ahead and see it, at least in the examples I throw up on screen of the kinds of sick imagery that were on this individual's profile, and that is the lead stylist for Balenciaga. And the fact then that Kim K also said that she will be taking steps to evaluate her relationship with the brand essentially means, in code, that she's still going to stay with them depending on how big the paycheck is, or if this whole thing dies down. I honestly think the reason why she took 6 days in the first place was not because she is, you know, having conversations with people. She is Kim K. She can pick up the phone and call up Demna straight away. She can call up anybody. How ironic it is that people like Kim were so anti-Kanye West, or Ye as he's now called, right, when all of the whole anti-Semitic accusations were happening. But she doesn't actually, as a mother, stand up then for a cause which is truly black and white. There truly is no grey area in the topic, and it took her 6 days. I'm really surprised, especially in the luxury community as well, of how few people are willing to address it. You know, as a woman who wants to have children, they are our future. They should not be harmed. They should not have to grow up before their age is appropriate. And I feel like a lot of efforts in Hollywood these days are targeting children. They're always going younger and younger for children to make adult decisions. I just think it's just evil in plain sight. That's like my biggest takeaway from this. And the fact that Balenciaga, one of the most trending up and coming brands recently, is, I guess, at the forefront of this. It's just, honestly, I feel like the tip of the iceberg when you consider Hollywood, when you consider the mainstream. The fact that they haven't addressed that and cleared essentially all of their head office, all of their staff. You can't just pick and choose these things. And I personally don't like cancel culture, but I do think you need to live and die by the sword. If you're going to live by cancel culture when it suits you, you're also going to have to die by it. Get rid of Demna, get rid of all the set designers or stylists or whatever that were involved. And there needs to be an investigation. There also, I guess, needs to be an actual apology, which they actually take the responsibility and not deflect it and sue other agencies. I think that's the latest piece of news as well, isn't it? That Balenciaga is suing for however many millions for damages. This is a line that should never have been crossed. It shouldn't even have to be said out loud for people to know that it's not appropriate to cross it. And as abhorrent and awful as it is, I do think it brings a lot of issues to the light, which otherwise I think we were all blissfully ignorant of. I mean, first of all, what kind of parents would take children to a campaign like this? I'm sorry, I'm getting really fired up. Rarely do you see me fired up about topics. So this one is a step too far, and I think maybe some of you out there who've seen my Instagram will know this is something I've been following quite closely and I'm very passionate about. There is no grey area, in my opinion. You are either for CP or you're against, and you're either therefore a criminal or a normal civilian. I think Balenciaga really needs to be cancelled for good. Everybody should be voting with their wallet. I've seen a lot of people burning their Balenciaga items, and I'm just personally really glad that I never bought from Balenciaga in the first place, because then now I don't have to burn anything because I never gave them a single penny. Balenciaga should be completely done for. I think it should set a precedent for other brands. I think parents need to really evaluate what they get their children into, especially if they're child models or actors. I don't know how big the paycheck was, but it feels like morals have a price, apparently. They have a price for their silence too. And I think Kim K was, I guess, waiting for it to all blow over. A lot of other ambassadors as well. I think Bella Hadid has said absolutely zilch on the matter. And even big players in the publishing world, such as the New York Times, I believe, even managed to somehow twist this very black and white issue into a political one that is something to do with Balenciaga is a QAnon conspiracy theory or something, when the material is there in plain sight. I just cannot believe there are people out there who are willing to stay silent or even manipulate the narrative so that Balenciaga is absolved of any blame or any responsibility. I think it's abhorrent. I'm truly disgusted by the imagery. If it was grown people, I mean, I can almost say fair enough. You could almost say it's like BDSM themed, but children should not have been anywhere in the equation. And I know a lot of people will probably ask around the photographer, because he obviously specializes in, you know, taking photos with the children. The photographer actually released a statement around explaining his position, where he was told to take photos, do what he does best, or his specialist series is about, and then jog on. Everything else was set designers, stylists. I mean, I don't absolve him of all the blame either, the photographer. I do think it takes two to tango, and as soon as you saw that set and what was on that set and what the children would have to do, you should have walked the hell out of there, no matter the paycheck. But everybody has their price, and I suppose some lessons have to be learnt the hard way. I just wish they didn't involve children. I feel like maybe in a TikTok, Instagram reel culture, we have a fish brain, but certainly for topics like this should not be forgotten. There needs to be real material consequences, because if this was on the other side of the political aisle, this would not be the same outcome. And I think this brand should honestly just wither away and die. I really do think we're in kind of what I feel is like a bit of a spiritual war here, and I just cannot believe it entered the luxury realm. One that I honestly thought was like an escape from the stuff that was happening in real life. Wider social issues are always intertwined, even in the material things that we buy, and I would not associate myself with brands like this. So that was just my ramble of thoughts on the Balenciaga saga. I will keep following the story as it progresses, and we learn more and more every day. We need to protect children at all costs, and we can't just sit back and allow this kind of things to happen. And thank goodness there was a market outrage and a consistent pressure kept up from all sides of the aisle, because otherwise I think this would have been swept under the carpet. And honestly, I feel like it would have been a precedent for other people who are into CP, like actually into CP, to go ahead and start pushing their beliefs into the mainstream. But I'm keen to hear what your guys' thoughts are down in the comments below, as always. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.